The construction site was alive, with noise from dawn to dusk, hammers striking, machines roaring, men calling out to one another across the scaffolding, and dust swirling in the sun like golden mist. Yet amid the chaos of cement and steel, there was a presence no one had expected. A small scruffy puppy with matted fur, ribs faintly showing under his tiny frame and eyes far too bright for a creature that had clearly known hunger. No one knew where he had come from. Perhaps abandoned by a careless owner, perhaps born in some forgotten alley and forced to wander, he had stumbled into this noisy, dusty world and decided to stay. On the first day, the workers had ignored him, assuming he would run off. But instead, he curled up on a pile of sand, watching them with curiosity, tail wagging at every movement. By the second day, he had grown bolder, chasing after their boots, barking at strangers who passed the gate, and trotting alongside carts, as if he were inspecting their loads. His antics made the men laugh, though some grumbled about tripping over him. "This little guy thinks he's the boss," one worker joked, while another shook his head, muttering, "Tiny nuisance." But the truth was, the puppy had claimed the construction site as his kingdom. His barks echoed louder than his size suggested, and his little legs, clumsy but determined, carried him into every corner, as if he alone could guard it. When the day ended and the men left for home, he stayed behind, curling up beneath an old cement bag, shivering through the night but refusing to leave. For him, this noisy, dusty place had become home not because it was safe or comfortable, but because in his heart, he hoped someone among those workers might notice that he wasn't just chasing for fun. He was chasing for belonging. Weeks passed, and the puppy became more than just a nuisance. He became part of the site's rhythm. Workers began to leave scraps of food for him, bread crusts, bits of meat, a small bowl of water set aside on hot afternoons. They teased him, called him their tiny security guard, but there was affection in their voices now. He followed them with unwavering loyalty, running beside wheelbarrows, barking at visitors, and waiting eagerly at lunchtime for someone to toss him a treat. And though he was small, though his fur was scruffy and his body frail, the men noticed something unusual about him. He never gave up. No matter how many times someone pushed him aside, no matter how many boots he chased in vain, he always returned, tail wagging, ready to try again. Then one evening, as summer heat gave way to a sudden storm, the sight changed from noisy to frantic. Dark clouds gathered, thunder cracked above, and the men worked in a rush, voices louder, movements sharper. The puppy darted about, nervous yet determined to stay close, barking at the sky as though he could chase the thunder away. And then it happened. A large steel beam, propped carelessly against a wall, began to shift under the wind's force. The men were too busy to notice the danger looming over them. But the puppy saw it. His ears perked, his eyes widened, and suddenly he began barking not the playful yaps they were used to, but sharp, frantic cries filled with urgency. He darted toward the group of men standing beneath the beam, circling them, barking so fiercely they paused in confusion. In that moment of hesitation, the beam slipped, crashing to the ground with a force that could have crushed them. The workers stumbled back, hearts pounding, realizing they had escaped only because the little dog had drawn their attention in time. Rain poured, lightning split the sky, but all they saw was the drenched puppy standing before them, soaked to the skin, shivering yet still wagging his tail. For the first time, they did not laugh at his chasing or call him a nuisance. For the first time, they looked at him with awe. When the sun rose the next morning, the storm had passed, leaving the site muddy, puddles reflecting broken clouds. But something had changed forever. The workers gathered round the puppy, who had survived the storm, curled beneath a plank of wood, his fur still damp, his little body trembling, but alive. They spoke quietly, remembering how his barking had saved them from disaster. One man brought him a piece of chicken from his lunchbox, another poured milk into a discarded bowl, and soon the puppy's eyes shone with gratitude as he licked the food clean. That day, they decided he was no longer a stray. Using leftover planks, they built a small wooden shelter near the site office, lining it with cloth to keep it warm. They gave him food, water, and most importantly a name, Buddy. It was simple, but it meant everything, for with that name came belonging. From then on, Buddy's life transformed. Every morning he greeted the men with wagging tail and eager barks, running circles around them as they entered. He chased their boots, not out of desperation, but out of joy, and the men laughed instead of grumbled. During breaks, he sat among them, chewing on scraps and soaking in the affection he had once only dreamed of. At night, he curled into his little shelter, no longer alone, no longer cold, secure in the love of those who had once been strangers. As the weeks passed, and the building began to rise steel, skeleton turning into walls, and rooms Buddy's presence became just as important as the bricks and beams. He was their companion, their mascot, their protector. Visitors to the site smiled when they saw him, the tiny security guard who had once been a stray but was now the heart of the place. And though he never stopped chasing after people, now everyone understood it was not a nuisance. It was his way of saying, "You're mine. Your family."